All right. Hey, everybody. My name's Charlie Stevens, and I'm happy to be doing this interview with the Nalani Effect today. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to Music First and Becca for putting this whole event together, and thanks to Grossenbart for having us. All right. So, Nalani, why don't we start with you? Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about myself. Well, I grew up just down the street in Niwot, Colorado. I was actually born there. And I started playing bass when I was 11. I was a vocalist first. And as soon as I started playing bass, people started telling me I should check out Victor Wooten's bass camp. And that's where I met Regi for the first time, almost 20 years ago now. And that was kind of the beginning. That was always the Wooten connection, which is Adam is Victor Wooten's son. So I met Adam when he was 4 years old. So yeah, the Wooten connection has kind of always been a pivot for all the opportunities I've had throughout my life. The reason I went to William Patterson University, Marty Hans here from William, who was in the honors department, ran the honors department at my school, is crazy. That's in New Jersey. So, yeah, like kind of everything that has pivoted. The reason I ended up in Nashville, which is where I live now, was also because the Wootens were there and I was studying with Regi. So, yeah, it dates back to a love of music because my mom would take me out to concerts all the time. I was just looking in a memento box and it was like ticket after ticket after ticket. My mom made sure I saw a lot of live music. And then the Wootens are a huge anchor for me. So I'm super honored to have the family connection here in my band now. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. All right, Adam. Well, she told us a little bit about you, but I want to hear it from the man himself. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Wooten. I'm also happy to be here. Oh, hey. Yeah, so like she said, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. He's my uncle. I come from a very musical family, so I've been around music for my whole life, which has been really fun. I've been around Nalani for also pretty much my whole life, and Satir. So that's been a joy and a privilege as well. And yeah, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, played drums since I was little. I say 3, but I don't remember when I was 3, so that's just what I was told. But I think 3 is when I started playing drums. Started gigging with my family and with people outside my family as well when I was around like 8, 9, 10-ish, just been playing drums and singing and doing that whole thing, which has been really fun. Then I went to college. Did the whole college experience, went to University of Michigan, had a good time. I'm also a competitive gymnast, or I was. So I did that throughout high school, middle school actually too, and college. So I just retired. I just graduated, and I moved to New York City, where I'm living playing drums there now too. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having me.
Great. Cool, man. Thank you. All right. Well, that leaves you, Regi. We'll pass it down to you.
Pass it on down? Okay.
Pass it on down.
All right. Well, a while back, I was walking down the yellow brick road. And somebody came and said, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" No, okay. No, I'm the oldest one of the Wooten brothers. My younger brother, Victor Wooten, is Adam's dad. And I'm the old guy. I got them there's 5 Wooten brothers, and I got them all into music. Because my dad was in the Army, the Korean War, and I didn't want them to do that, so I got him into rock and roll and funk and soul. So I'm just the oldest, and I'm a music guy. I love music, and I pushed it on my brothers to play music, and luckily they're all doing good. And so that's what I do. We play music. Now Nalani's my boss, and Satir, and so I'm here today. That's it. Regi Wooten, thank you. That's it.
That's all.
All right. So you guys really have a strong connection with your musical background and kind of grew up in the tradition of that. And it sounds like you had a big part of making sure your family grew up in the tradition of that. So maybe starting with you then, what really inspires you to get going about that? What really, what is it about music that is so meaningful to you that you realize this was such a big thing?
Well, I'll take this. Just keep that way you guys can interject in. But what happens, I was born in the old days, before a lot of you guys were born. Y'all don't know. You might not know what I'm talking about because we back in the day, back in the day. But so when I was a kid, I was young, but Jimi Hendrix was alive, and Led Zeppelin was alive, and the Rolling Stones were alive, and the Beatles were alive, and James Brown, and Elvis, and the Jackson 5, and the Osmond Brothers. There's music everywhere. It was on the radio. Radio was the #1 thing, a big deal. Had a lot of shows on television, the Ed Sullivan Show, and the Tammy Show. And there's just so much music, a lot more. It was different than it is now. And the musicians were really artists. They took their music so serious, almost life and death, some of them, when you talk to them, how serious they took the music. So I came up with that, and a lot of the music back then changed a lot of people's lives. A lot of people actually quit their jobs to ride motorcycles and stuff and to be free and easy. So I came from that generation. Mr. Teacha knows exactly what I'm talking about. So it was hard. So a lot of people switched to music back then. This is in the late 60s, early 70s. And so it wasn't hard to be a musician back then because the vibe was so different. It was really a musical vibe. There were a lot more, there were bands in every other garage. There's bands rehearsing. A lot more musical festivals, rock festivals. The Wooten brothers, our band, we were in many rock band festivals in high school and in city. The JCs would block the street off. So just a lot more music, and that's what inspired it. And it was high-level music, too. Like, the songs would inspire you. And every genre, whether it was rock, there was good rock that inspired everybody, not just rock people. You heard it, it's like, whoa, that sound, soul, everything. So it was an easy time to get into music, and a lot of people, not just me, got into music at that time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great music going on now as well, but I feel like back then there was, limited sources of where it came from, so we all kind of heard the same thing, and I feel like that kind of helped it be a little bit more culturally involved than how it is once we all have MP3 players and everybody's got their thing that they listen to. It's a little bit different, but, well, cool. So speaking of your influences, Regi, so you're a pretty big innovator of the guitar, I would say, and you play like yourself and not like a lot of these guys, but obviously you are influenced by them. And I just wanted to ask you about that because when I hear a player like yourself, I have trouble imagining you sitting at home transcribing stuff note for note, but I'm also guessing you've done your fair share of that. Would you mind sharing what that's like for you?
Yeah, well, all of us, we can read and write, and we can read and write music, I was in band in 5th grade. I had to play trumpet, Then they switched me to French horn. My brother, younger Victor, was in orchestra. All of us were in band. So we read and write. We play by ear, and then we also play by music. As far as innovating the guitar, I'm just kind of doing what was necessary. I play with so many bands. So sometimes, like, if I play in a band and the keyboard player was weak, I would just, just to make up for the sound, I was just doing whatever to make sure the whole band sounded good. Same thing with slapping on the guitar. If the people weren't dancing, I would help the drummer out just by slapping on the guitar. Play that funky. So a lot of it's just necessity just to make a party.
Right.
And on,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I play lots of different styles of music, so sometimes you have different instrumentation and people have to fill certain roles, or maybe the one guy who is responsible for a certain role, maybe they're soloing and you might need to step in and do that. So I think that's really cool.
Make sure everybody's dancing.
Yeah. And what about you, Nalani? Who are some of your influences, and what was your process like to become the creative person you are now? Did you find yourself learning a lot of note-for-note things and things like that, or?
I think this is on. Okay. Well, Reggie is a huge influence for me. Um, he also has guided me to people who can be great influences, exposed me to a lot of amazing music from every genre. The best bass players you never knew were bass players, like Prince. Um, I didn't really realize Prince was as masterful of a bass player as he was until Reggie taught me that Prince was doing all the instruments on those recordings, but he's like one of the funkiest bass players ever. Of course, Victor. But in general, I think what's influenced me the most is the experiences that I have as an audience member, as someone who loves to dance, feeling the connection between the audience and the musicians, and that magnetic field that gets created between those two parties. And it's something that's really unique. It won't be recreated. You could do the exact same set list, exact same songs, play the exact same notes, and it will never be exactly the same. So that has really influenced me as the energy field, really, that gets created, that I get to be in when I'm both as an audience member or as a performer. So when it comes to specific artists that influence me, it's dependent on who can get me there, or who I can see can move the audience in that way. I am not, or have not been, a note for note player because of it being so much of an energetic experience for me. For a long time, I felt like I was like just flying by the seat of my pants and just making the show work and making it feel good in the moment, and I didn't like hone into technical study for a long time, and that made college really difficult because there were a lot of players that had been transcribing John Coltrane solos for the bass for 10 years since they were like 13 years old or whatever, and that was just not something I was inspired by because I loved the performative experience. So in my later years and studying with Reggie and getting a more disciplined relationship with practice, rather than only being driven by the performance, has really evolved in the last 10 years or so.
Wow, cool. So Adam, I haven't even heard you play your drums yet, but I already can tell you feel it just watching you set up your kit every time there's a song on that you like. You're just feeling it with every part of yourself. And as a drummer, you're kind of a big part of what makes groove happen. So I was wondering if you'd share your thoughts on what groove even is and how you approach it.
My thoughts on what groove even is. That's deep. That's deep. Yeah, I don't know if I have a comprehensive answer for what groove even is, but I think it has a lot to do with what you talked about, just that nod in your head. And I think there's a sort of a collectivism about it too that has to happen. Maybe it doesn't has to happen, but it's better when it does, when it can be shared, those moments. But yeah, to me, it just feels like when something's grooving, it's parts fitting in nicely together in a way that just feels right. And it's just, I'm still discovering the answer to your question, honestly. And I hope that, and I know that it will change and continue to adjust as I continue in my journey. But yeah, it has something to do with just that, when something just feels good and makes you want to just move a little bit. It's a good feeling. And everyone knows, it's one of those things that we all kind of know what it is, but it's hard to pin down with some words or some sentences. But it's a collective thing. It's a thing that moves bodies. So it's something I'm always gunning for, always trying to cultivate and grow and make happen. So
Absolutely,
it's a fun thing.
I love how that ties into what she's saying too, because it speaks to overall awareness of the audience and the energy in the room, and that's part of it as well, right? Reggie, would you like to jump in on this at all?
No, you mentioned the energy of the room, and I play off of that a lot. Like, when I play, I always notice everybody in the room. I always notice little children. I always want to make sure the children are happy when I'm playing. Like, when I play a gig, I never want a child crying. And so I notice that. And that's just how I am. I tell my band that, do you see the little baby over there? And to me, that helps me communicate. Feeling the audience helps me to make because so like Nalani hires me to play, right? She's paying me. So it's my job to make sure she has the best gig ever. No excuses. And one way I do that is by just noticing the people in the audience, how they dress, the enthusiasm. And it's just old school. I came up with that with James Brown, Hendrix, Elvis, and all that. They all kind of had this humility. They had a different style back then, and they were aware of their surroundings. So I play off the audience quite a bit. That's why I was sitting out in the audience. I wasn't back in the dressing room. I want to know what's happening because I've never been here before, and that helps me a lot to make sure the music is going to go as high as it can go tonight.
Awesome. I love big picture kind of thoughts about some stuff like this. So I understand that you're really interested in musical mysticism, and I was wondering if you'd share a little bit of that with us.
Sneak on that one.
Nalani, you go first. I don't want it to get too deep, but no, you saw that on the internet, right?
I did, and I actually had a specific question if you want to go there, so it's not too broad. But
no, go ahead.
So you mentioned that when you were, I think you said around 11th grade, you got really interested in why the musical symbols looked a certain way, and you got really into the symbolism, and that was really what kicked it off for you. And I thought that was really interesting, and I was wondering if there was any interesting story you wanted to share about something you learned about any of those symbols or anything that really helped hook you into it.
Okay, I don't want to get too deep,
Adam.
but something we can all relate to. So, like I teach music every day, like when I'm at home. I don't have any days off. But I tell all my students to make it work that music is feminine. Okay? Music is a female, right? And I go deeper than that too. Religion, God's a woman, but we won't go there. No. But I explain it to them. I show them. It says it right there. But music is feminine. So what that means is there's masculine where you do it the hard way. We need some masculine in the world, like you change your tire. Hey, get a dude to do it, just, you see what I mean? But feminine is different. And
Or just tap into your masculine energy. You don't need a dude to do it for you, Reggie.
feminine means like you can do a lot with no strength at all. You see what I mean? That's what feminine means. So like, if a girl I teach my students this, the way to make the music work. Because like, when a girl sits in front of the mirror and puts her makeup on all by herself, sitting in a room all by herself, she's doing what she wants to do, right? She's not worried about she's really into herself. Gets her skirt right, her makeup, she's experimenting. She's really into her own self. And the more she does that, when she goes out there, guys want to buy her a drink. You see what I mean? They're looking at her because she has that confidence. You see what I mean? So she's not strong enough to make a guy buy me dinner and do that. You see what I mean? But that's part of the human experience. That's the feminine experience. The guys want to do it. So that's what I do in music. I develop myself. I sit at home by myself, develop my passion, what I love, and then people want to fly me out to Colorado to play, to pay me. They come to see me play. I can't make them. You see me? And I'm doing what I want to do. I'm not trying to look just like the girl. I'm not trying to look like anybody else. Like I'm in Nashville, which is a country town, cowboy hats, but I've got dreadlocks. I'm acting as silly as I can. You see what I mean? I'm not trying to fit in. I'm doing what makes me resonate, and they pay the money. And so I hope you can understand that. That's feminine when the woman does what she wants to do, and everybody flocks around her because of her confidence. You see what I mean? So I teach that every day, and that's some of your music and mysticism. It's amazing the way that works. Mm-hmm. You do what you enjoy, and then all of a sudden now they enjoy it. To me, that's amazing. It's magic. I don't understand how it works, but that's what I do.
Well, I wonder if you guys will agree with this, because as a songwriter, I've noticed that for me personally, if I write something that's really meaningful to me, those are the songs that people go, wow, that's really meaningful to me too. If you're trying to go for what you think somebody's going to like, that doesn't really work for me, And I was wondering if you guys kind of had any experience of that with your originals as well.
I mean, I've had a lot of experience on the other side of it, of trying too hard to make things happen and it backfiring. because it doesn't feel good, because it throws off my emotions, and so then it throws off the whole vibe of the whole room. And you can't make music when you're feeling like that. I'm still figuring out what I really like and what I really love, and embodying that fully so that it can have a feminine mastery over the room. But yeah, I've definitely experienced, I'm sure plenty of people, when you're trying to make something happen, that's something that's artful like that, it loses a soulfulness that can actually benefit moving people and moving other souls.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all view ourselves as individuals, but we might be more connected than we realize. So if we tap into something really personal, that might actually be something that people resonate with more than we realize. You know?
I just want to make sure that we introduce Charlie here, because I realized we jumped in and we didn't know who Charlie is. Can you tell us a little about who you are so that we know who's interviewing?
Yeah, why not? So I'm Charlie Stevens. I live up in Fort Collins, Colorado. I have a bluegrass band called the Charlie Stevens Band. I also play in a funk band called Titanic, and teach guitar lessons up in Fort Collins. And yeah, I have a pretty good life, honestly, and I'm really happy to be here with you all tonight. Yeah.
Thank you. And we're all here because of Music First, right? Music First, the amazing organization that services musicians.
Now, who is Music First? Help me, I don't know. Who's Music First? Who is that? What is
Music
that?
First is a nonprofit organization, and their mission is to help musicians in the venues that they play at. They have a booth right over here, and they're accepting donations if you guys want to go talk to them. And I'd like to especially thank Becca here for putting everything together. And
Shout out to
working
Becca,
so hard
manning
on
the
that
camera,
organization.
who is the director of Music First. Is that your title? Official director. One more applause for Becca.
I didn't know all that. Wow, see? Wow, this is big time.
All right, well, maybe we should open up some questions to the audience. Yeah. Can I repeat the question?
Repeat the question so I can understand the answer. Yeah. I really want to understand what you mean. I feel you, but let me understand.
I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit more about, in your musical playing, the difference between like the masculine energy of like forcing something out versus the feminine energy, and like as a musician what that looks like, what that feels like in daily practice and performance, like the practical understanding of those two opposites.
Of when to use both or either? Is that what you mean?
What do they look like? What do they feel like? How do you know that you're doing one versus the other? How do you avoid one?
How do I be masculine in music? I mean, what?
Yeah, like how do...
Help me. I'm slow. In school, I was slow. Help me. I have to understand and digest.
Is there a practical application you use in practice to embody that more feminine versus the more masculine?
I spend a
Does that
lot
help?
of time on my guitar, right? Just like a female spends a lot of time in front of the mirror. You know, like what Dominique spends 2 hours at least in front of the mirror getting herself ready. But then she has what? How many? 1 million followers? You know, because she's doing her thing. So I spend a lot of time too. I actually practice the feminine aspect of music all the time to make it work. And I taught it to my brothers Victor also, and Roy Future Man, and Joseph Wooten with the Steve Miller Band for 30 years. You see what I mean? Like, for instance, like, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but interject anytime. But like my brother Joe got called to play with Steve Miller Band. I picked up the phone. Steve Miller apologized because he was taking my keyboard player, my little brother. And he said he was going to play. Steve Miller said he was old and was only going to play 1-2 years tops. And I wanted to tell him, no, you're not. Once you get Joe, because I know Joe is what I call musically complete. He can play melodically, harmonically, and rhythmically. There's no holes. I knew they were going to be going. So now, this is 2023, his 30th year. So if you see Steve Miller, you'll see my brother Joe. But the same way a female concentrates on herself, I do the same thing with my instrument. Because to me, music is 100% female. I can't make you come here. You see what I mean? But I attract it. In science, feminine is magnetism and men are electric. You see what I mean? Magnetism pulls you in, but you don't see what's pulling you in. It's almost like a moth flying to the light. Why do they do that? And they die. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to that. I don't know if I'm answering your question because I don't quite understand it.
Just as a follow-up then,
Yeah.
how as a musician do you do that? How do you do that? Like, how do you create that magnetism?
You have to spend time with yourself. So I believe in practice. Now, not everybody likes to practice. My brother Victor teaches another philosophy where you get good by staying away from your instrument. But I'm older. I'm from the Jimi Hendrix school. Jimi Hendrix slept with his guitar. And I have friends. We live in Nashville. Jimi Hendrix used to live in Nashville. So I'm always taking my students to go meet some of these older guys. And Hendrix was in their band. They're talking about Hendrix would go to the movie theater with his guitar. He'd sit in the movie theater with his guitar. He was always with it. And he'd walk down the streets of Jefferson Street, and some people used to pick on him. And his nickname was Marbles in Nashville, Tennessee, because they said he was crazy. But these old guys, the Fairfield Four, if you know who they are, they were in the movie Old Brother Wildflower with George Clooney. We're there in Nashville. But Jimi Hendrix was in their band, and they used to protect him because he was doing his own thing. And I call that doing the feminine way. He was doing what he wanted to do, no matter what anybody said. They thought he was crazy. You know, he left the Army, Fort Campbell, to just play guitar and do his thing. And now we all know his name because he totally did what he wanted to do. Even though he had no support from American media, it didn't stop him. He never changed his style, never changed anything. That's why I like old people like Elvis, same way. Even though Elvis was copying other people, he did his own thing the whole time when they told him it wasn't going to work. Same thing with Ozzy Osbourne, James Brown. They said, don't scream on you. You can't say please, please, please 57 times on a record. But he does. And that was one of his biggest hits. They make a whole record label for him, King Records, with his picture, because he's doing his thing. And that's a feminine concept, because women do their own thing. You see what I mean? To me, they practice more than men. They sit in the mirror. You know, women are more emotional. They got more emotions to deal with than men. And so I'm trying to develop my emotions and my modes and my modes on the guitar too. So in art, it's good to know what's feminine and what's masculine. And music is a lot feminine because you gotta get response. Music's invisible. You can't see it. So can't prove it in court, but it's still an exact science. And a lot of people don't know the science because they don't care. But I depend on it. That's how I make my living. Same thing with Victor. My younger brother Victor, his dad has 5 Grammys. You see what I mean? But I'm the older brother, and I'm talking crazy to him. Like, you know, we're not going to do the drug thing. We're not doing this. You're going to be a Zen master. He's got a yin-yang on his bass. You're going to wear a yin-yang hat. You see what I mean? And it worked. Same thing with Roy, Future Man, Wooten with Bela Fleck. 5 Grammys later. And we didn't come from money. You know, we grew up in tobacco fields. I'm not trying to put out a bad, you know, we came from the ghetto, but that's really what happened. But we created magnetism. You see what I mean? Where the people wanted, just like Victor's camp, his dad's camp. How many people came and built those buildings for free? You see what I'm saying? Victor's got a whole college at his dad's, you know. Well, Victor didn't have the money to do all that. They just came and did it. And it's magnificent, Victor's camps and the legacy of his camps. Holly Wooten Woods, it's a legacy. But it's the way it was done and what's in his head, the way he's thinking about it. You see what I mean? And some of us understand me because I'm the crazy guy. I'm always, you know, I'm not trying to fit in. I'm telling these guys this stuff. Same thing with Nalani. She's heard me say so many crazy things. Be yourself. Because I need her, my job, she paid me as a teacher and her mom, so my job is to make sure she's successful. I'm disappointed until she makes $1 million. That's me as a teacher. Same thing with my brother. So this is a different style. The same way a mother loves her children. You see what I mean? So it's feminine, feminine, feminine. I'm all masculine though. But, you see what I mean? But art, I'm understanding art. I hope that helps out. I'm not sure your question yet. I feel your question, but I'm not sure exactly where you're going with it.
That works. Thank you.
Can I say something as a witness to
And-
you,
And I'm
Reggie?
saying that so everybody can chime in, okay? When I talk, everybody can talk, all right? Because we're together.
As a witness and a disciple of Reggie's teachings, I see just in your daily demeanor, you practice that that kind of behavior, like in the way that you interact with everyone. It's always very gentle and very much an invitation. And as a teacher, Reggie will always like uplift the student and find what they're great at, and then like egg them on into the other things he wants to teach them. That's to me is very, very much that same magnetism, feminism you're talking about. And then the other thing that I recognize in you is the way that you interact with your band. When you want them to play a certain way, you lead by example. You create an environment that invites them to fill that space as a response. And so I think for me as a witness, I feel like you practice those kinds of the softness and the inviting and magnetism all the time, not just when you're on your instrument, too.
Hi,
What's your name?
My name's Wendy Hutt. So,
Hi, Wendy.
yeah, thanks so much for coming out. We're so blessed to be here. So, thank you so much. I'm curious, what drives you to continue playing music and just continue, this desire and just need to be there for us. So, what drives each of you?
You guys go first. What drives you, Charlie? Yeah, answer that question.
Well, my friend Sean drove me here tonight because I have a broken foot. I've considered myself fortunate because I've always sort of had a vision in my life to pursue music and specifically education. So I had a teacher when I was maybe 12 years old, and I worked with him for maybe a year, and then he moved to South America for a while to go find himself or something, but I realized that he had given me all these skills and I could just keep teaching myself, and I wasn't this kid anymore. I was this person who played guitar, and I sort of had this identity. And at the same time, I had a lot of little cousins and stuff like that, and I would be helping around the family with kids, and I sort of had a natural ability to kind of work with people and be understanding like that. And I realized the teacher that I had was so impactful on my life that I really always wanted to be that for somebody else. So I decided when I was maybe 12 years old, I wanted to teach guitar, and I've been that's been driving me ever since, I guess.
I think that for me at the beginning, my drive, my spark really came from that energy I was talking about, the relationship the magnetic field that gets created between us when we share these musical moments together. As I've gotten older and I've gotten to watch, witness suffering, and my grandmother, whose mind is deteriorating, was a big one of realizing that music, for me, is the one most infinite art form, practice, study, science, physics that I have access to in the universe. And so if anything is going to sustain me for an infinite lifetime, if anything is going to sustain me, music will, because I'll never stop learning it. And I'm constantly when I learn something new, I'm constantly baffled by the magic of how it works together, and it's tuned into nature and science and just the way the whole world works. So for me, it's it's I'm learning how to embody that more, but I want that to be like my mission is that it will sustain me for an infinite amount of time to keep going.
I agree with that. Um, I think for me, like on the sustainability thing, I feel like emotionally regulated by music a lot of the time. Like when I go a long time without playing, which I haven't done in a while, but when it has happened in the past, if I go through big life changes or something, like I don't feel good. Like it's actually kind of crazy, and a lot of times I don't realize what's happening until I sit down at a piano or at a drum set or something, and I just kind of exhale a little bit. I also feel like there's a lot of musical moments that I've experienced that I'm just sort of chasing all the time, like for that feeling, that those moments that feel just perfect and also almost inevitable at the same time, and you're just sitting there and everyone's experiencing it together is really cool. I've also gotten to see through family and through Uncle Reggie and all the people he's taught through Nalani, uh, all the powerful things that music can do, which is really cool. And I've gotten to experience it for myself, where I show up to these gigs where it's like, I've been at some gigs where it's, I walk in there like, how am I gonna connect to any of these people, right? And then it happens. It always happens, which is really cool. And that's magic to me, so I'll always be chasing that. I think it's cool.
I agree with him. It's magic. Okay, that's awesome. I think magic is a key word. But to answer your question, what inspires me, the last time I really got inspired, well, when we, 4th of July, when we played for 500,000 people in Nashville, that was inspiring.
That was big.
But then I was on the road with Dave Matthews with my brother Victor. And it was total, it's feminine energy all the way. I mean, because 25 miles of traffic to get there, you know, they're standing, driving in line for 25 miles. Um, it was way over 100,000 people, but Dave was just being modest and say, well, we always play for at least 100,000. He could only play outside. He's so big, he can't play inside, at least that summer. You know what I mean? And sometimes Dave would be playing, and then he's playing, not going through the motions, but he's doing his Dave thing. All of a sudden, but everybody would stop. We'd be in backstage, and everybody would stop. And the audience would get quiet because Dave would get into himself and start really singing. You know, like space between the universal. And all of a sudden, what was that? We all start laughing because we all felt it at the same time. It was magic. We don't know why we did that. The audience stopped. You see what I mean? And so for that many people, over 100,000 people, we played every other night because you had to set up the stage. You can't play every night for the stage size and the screens. So every other night we were on the road. But there was a policeman there with his riot gear, whole black uniform. He had everything too because 100,000 people. Yeah, police, just a few policemen there. But that was masculine. He had his tasers and his big assault rifle. And none of the girls were looking at him. He wasn't big man anymore. You see what I mean? Because something else was so much greater. Somebody playing a guitar. And the whole, Dave Matthews, and the whole band is circling around Dave. And that whole production, those big screens, and that big fairground. My eyes are good in my old age, but my eyes are good. But I could not see the back people. That's how many people it was. It was just a blur. And they all just coming to see him. Like, why? Why are you coming? I can't think of any physical answer. But if we go to the music side or the feminine magnetism of whatever the human spirit is, then it makes sense. To me, and that's the thing, to me, I really value the human experience. I think that the whole human race has so much more potential. And I'm one of those guys trying to get that out. I'm kind of like Hendrix and Miles Davis. They were really into that too, of the bringing people together. There was a big move in the 60s. I was really too young, but I still felt that. Bringing people together, more laughter. Like, I play for a living. I don't work. And I teach that. You see what I mean? There's working for a living and there's playing for a living. And a lot of people know what working is, but they don't have any experience in playing. Playing for a living is very dangerous. It's a lot more toxic. How many people have died at 27 as soon as they, Jim Morrison, Tupac, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, we can just keep going on the 27 Club, because they weren't prepared for success. Everything going your way, all the girls just coming on. You can get any kind of in any kind of mess you want to get in because everything's going your way. We need more preparation for that. The other side of music that keeps me inspired too is the immortality of it. The Rolling Stones were just in Nashville. Mick Jagger's going on 80, right? Seats were like what? 1,000, 1,500 up front.
Oh, really expensive, yeah.
Merchandise, making all that money. Girls, he's got a girlfriend, but girls just going up. They don't care about he's 80 years old. Like, what is that? They did not care. They're trying to get there. You see what I mean? I've seen that. So, like, what is that energy? It's nothing logical. I understand it in my art, but there's no explanation for that. So all that inspires me. I'm just totally blown away by that whole thing. I don't understand it, but I'm all the way into it.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Any other questions from the audience?
What's your goal for tonight? Where do you want to take us tonight?
Well, I really want to play. You see what I mean? I don't really like to talk. I would rather us play first, then you know what I mean, and then have the question. Because to me, you can't explain music. You just got to experience. Plus, we got all these other great musicians here, and I actually want to hear what they sound like, because I'll take it home and use whatever they did. So, and then I want to see who dances. I want to see the outfits, and I want to feel the vibe. You see what I mean? So that's really where I want to take you. I'd rather start playing. Eat, drink, and be merry. Is everybody happy?
All right. Well, we can't argue with that. The man is ready to play. We better turn these guys loose. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, and stick around for the Nalani Effect.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Becca, and Music
Thank you,
First.
guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Grosenbart.